There's something haunting about watching someone give everything they have to a performance, only for that moment to become their last. Most of us think of the stage as a place of glory, celebration, and applause, but for some performers, it became the final spotlight. Over the years, dozens of actors, musicians, comedians, and athletes have collapsed and died right in front of live audiences. Some on camera, others in front of stunned crowds who couldn't tell if it was all part of the act. Some deaths were quiet and sudden, others violent and unthinkable. But all of them share one eerie truth. These were people who died doing what they loved, while the world was watching. And in many cases, no one realized what had happened until it was far too late. For most people in the audience, it was just another hilarious night of entertainment. That's what made it so disturbing. In April of 1984, legendary British comedian and magician Tommy Cooper was performing live on television in front of a packed theater and millions watching from home. His routine was known for its clumsy, chaotic style. He'd often pretend to mess up tricks just to get a laugh. So when he suddenly clutched his chest and fell backward during his act, the crowd did what they always did. They laughed. They thought it was part of the show. But behind the scenes, panic was setting in. Cooper had suffered a massive heart attack right there on stage. Medics rushed to revive him while cameras stayed on the scene, completely unaware of what was unfolding. He was pronounced dead not long after being taken to the hospital, and by then, the applause had already faded into shock. Just a few years later, it happened again. On April 17, 1987, comedian and actor Dick Shawn collapsed in the middle of a performance at the University of California, San Diego. Known for his wild energy and unpredictable antics, Shawn had just delivered a line when he dropped to the floor. Once again, the audience assumed it was part of the act. They waited and waited until someone finally realized he wasn't moving. He wasn't breathing. Despite being rushed to the hospital, Shawn was declared dead from a heart attack. The audience, just like Cooper's, had unknowingly witnessed the real end of the performance. And in 2017, music legend Colonel Bruce Hampton joined that tragic list. It was his 70th birthday celebration, a star-studded jam session in Atlanta, surrounded by friends, family, and fans. In the middle of a high-energy song, he quietly sat down near a speaker, almost like he was resting. No one panicked at first. Hampton was known for his eccentric stage behavior, so even those closest to him didn't think twice. But as the moments passed, it became painfully clear. Something was wrong. The man who had spent his life blending humor, music, and soul had given his final performance without anyone realizing it. He passed away that night, and the crowd that came to celebrate him unknowingly watched his final goodbye. Some performances don't take place on a stage or behind a mic. They happen inside a ring, under bright lights, where adrenaline and danger are always just a heartbeat away. That's what made Mitsuharu Misawa's death so chilling. On June 13, 2009, the legendary Japanese pro wrestler, known for his fearless style and brutal matches, was performing in Hiroshima during a tag team event. The match was intense, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary, until Misawa was lifted for a suplex. In an instant, he collapsed. Lifeless, the crowd fell into silence. Misawa had suffered a catastrophic spinal cord injury, and though medical staff rushed to his side and performed CPR right there in the ring, it was no use. He was declared dead shortly after being transported to the hospital. It wasn't part of the script. It was real, and it was irreversible. 10 years later, another wrestler's life would end the same way, right in front of a crowd. Silver King, a beloved Mexican luchador and actor, was in the middle of a match in London when something went wrong. At first, he seemed winded, maybe just tired. But then he collapsed in the ring and didn't get back up. The audience, unsure if it was a dramatic wrestling bit or a serious emergency, hesitated to react. Meanwhile, fellow wrestlers and officials panicked behind the scenes. Medical help was called, but it was already too late. Silver King was gone, his final bout turning into a farewell no one expected. But no wrestling death was more horrifying, or more public, than Owen Hart's. On May 23, 1999, during a WWE pay-per-view event, Hart was meant to descend into the ring from the rafters in a superhero-style stunt. But the harness malfunctioned. In front of a stunned audience, Hart plummeted nearly 80 feet, hitting the ring ropes with devastating force. WWE cut the broadcast immediately, and fans at home never saw the full horror, but those in the arena did. Despite emergency treatment, he was pronounced dead soon after. That night, the arena meant for entertainment became a place of heartbreak, and the memory of Owen Hart's fall has haunted wrestling ever since. The stage was lit. The crowd was cheering. And then, everything stopped. In May 2022, Indian playback sensation KK, born Krishna Kumar Kanath, was performing a sold-out concert in Kolkata. His voice had defined a generation of Bollywood music, raw, emotional, unforgettable. But in the middle of his set, KK complained of uneasiness. Moments later, he collapsed. He was rushed to a nearby hospital, but it was already too late. A cardiac arrest had claimed his life at just 54. Fans were stunned. How could someone who just brought down the house be gone minutes later? Just a year later, in March 2023, Brazilian guitarist Pedro Henrique was doing what he always did, lighting up the stage with his passionate, electrifying energy. The crowd was locked in, hanging on every note, when he suddenly fell to the ground. It wasn't a misstep or part of the show. Henrique, only 39, had suffered a heart attack mid-performance. Emergency responders tried everything, but the music had already stopped for good. The video of the moment circulated quickly, leaving fans heartbroken and stunned at how fast life can fade, especially for someone so full of it. And then there was Sib Hashian, the legendary drummer of the rock band Boston. On March 22, 2017, was playing live aboard a Legends of Rock cruise ship. Surrounded by fans who adored him, he collapsed behind the drum kit he had made iconic. He was 67. Though medics aboard the ship worked to save him, he couldn't be revived. His final beats came in rhythm, right in front of the crowd. A final performance that became a farewell. Tiny Tim, known for his falsetto and ukulele, and his bizarre but endearing presence, also took his final bow mid-performance. In November 1996, while singing Tiptoe Through the Tulips at a benefit concert in Minneapolis, he suffered a heart attack on stage. He collapsed mid-song, was rushed to the hospital, and was pronounced dead shortly after. His death was just as surreal as his career, almost too strange to believe, yet painfully real. And some tragedies didn't come with warning signs. In 2022, Valencia Prime, a beloved drag performer and proud representative of Philadelphia's LGBTQ+ community, was hosting her showcase, Prime Time, when she collapsed suddenly on stage. At just 25 years old, her death sent shockwaves through her community. The cause was later revealed to be cardiovascular disease, but it didn't ease the grief of the fans and friends who had just seen her shining in the spotlight. Then there was Barbara Weldens, a rising French singer performing barefoot on stage during a music festival in 2017. A faulty electrical cable ended her life instantly. She was electrocuted mid-song and died before help could arrive. She was only 35. Her debut album had just come out. Her star was rising. And in a single second, it was gone. Most people step into the spotlight expecting applause, not danger. But for a few performers, the very stage that made them famous became the place where their lives were stolen. In 2016, rising pop star and The Voice finalist Christina Grimmie had just finished a concert in Orlando. She was signing autographs, smiling, chatting with fans. That's when a man approached her, not with a compliment, but a weapon. In a flash, he pulled out a gun and shot her multiple times. Her brother tackled the assailant, but it was already too late. Grimmie was rushed to the hospital but didn't survive. She was only 22 years old, and her death left an entire generation of fans mourning what could have been. Then came one of the most horrifying moments in rock history. On December 8, 2004, Dimebag Darrell, the legendary guitarist of Pantera and Damageplan, was mid-performance in Columbus, Ohio, when a gunman stormed the stage. In front of a packed venue, the man opened fire, killing Darrell instantly and taking the lives of 3 others before being shot by police. It wasn't just a tragedy, it was a massacre. Darrell's name became forever linked to one of the darkest nights in metal music history, and sometimes, the violence happens far away from massive arenas. On November 5, 2023, Juan Johnny Walker Jumalon, a beloved Filipino radio host, was live-streaming a morning show from his home studio. It was supposed to be just another cheerful broadcast filled with jokes and community news. But two men arrived at the door pretending to make an announcement. One of them pulled a gun, entered the studio, and shot Jumalon twice on live camera. The killer then snatched a necklace from his body and escaped on a motorcycle. The video streamed to stunned viewers in real time. Jumalon had no enemies, no political enemies, just a mic and a message. And still, it wasn't enough to keep him safe. These weren't accidents or medical emergencies. These were deliberate, violent acts that shattered not just lives, but entire fanbases, and proved that even the stage, with all its lights and joy, can become a battlefield in an instant. For some performers, the stage isn't just where their story ends, it's also where the legacy of someone they loved begins to echo in haunting ways. Lillian Hardin Armstrong, a jazz legend in her own right and the second wife of Louis Armstrong, had spent her life shaping American music. But it was during a televised memorial concert for Louis that her own life came to an end. On August 27, 1971, while playing the piano in honor of her late husband, Lillian suddenly collapsed. It was a heart attack, and despite efforts to save her, she died en route to the hospital. It was as if her heart, already carrying decades of music and grief, had finally given out during the most emotional performance of her life. But no legacy casts a longer, more tragic shadow than that of Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee. Bruce Lee, the martial arts pioneer, philosopher, and film icon, died suddenly in 1973 at just 32 years old. The official cause, cerebral edema, swelling of the brain, possibly from a reaction to painkillers. It was a mysterious and unexpected death that left fans reeling and fueled endless speculation. 2 decades later, his son Brandon Lee met an even more disturbing fate, this time, caught on camera. While filming The Crow in 1993, Brandon was supposed to be shot in a scene using a prop gun. But due to a horrifying chain of negligence, the weapon fired a real bullet fragment that had been lodged in the barrel from an earlier take. Brandon was hit in the abdomen. At first, no one realized it wasn't a stunt. But the blood didn't stop. He was rushed into surgery, and for hours, doctors fought to save him. But by the end of the night, he was gone, just 28 years old. The eerie parallel between father and son, both dying young, both in the middle of a career destined for greatness, became one of the most tragic legacies in entertainment history. These weren't just performers. They were icons, mentors, partners, sons, and daughters. And their deaths, especially when tied so closely to someone else's legacy, left behind not just grief, but a chilling sense of unfinished stories, family echoes, and what could have beens that still linger decades later. For some performers, the biggest risk on stage isn't the audience, it's nature itself. That was the harsh reality for Steve Irwin, the beloved crocodile hunter known for his fearless encounters with some of the world's most dangerous animals. On September 4, 2006, Irwin was filming a documentary called Ocean's Deadliest off the coast of Australia. While snorkeling above a massive stingray, the creature suddenly whipped its tail upward, striking Irwin in the chest with its barb. The impact pierced his heart. His crew pulled him from the water and tried to save him, but the wound was fatal. It was a freak accident, a moment no one saw coming. And the footage, though never released, was said to capture the very second a global icon was taken by the very wildness he spent his life celebrating. But Irwin wasn't the only performer who underestimated nature's edge. In Indonesia, singer Irma Bule had built a unique brand by performing on stage with live cobras wrapped around her neck. It was shocking, it was daring, and tragically, it was deadly. During an April 2016 performance, one of the king cobras bit her mid-song. She kept performing, convinced the venom wouldn't affect her. But within minutes, she collapsed. She was rushed to the hospital, but it was already too late. The stunt that made her famous had just taken her life. Then there was Dawn Brancheau, a seasoned animal trainer at SeaWorld Orlando. On February 24, 2010, during what was supposed to be a routine interaction with an orca named Tilikum, the unthinkable happened. In a sudden, violent moment, the whale grabbed Brancheau and dragged her underwater. Despite desperate rescue attempts, she was fatally injured. Her death ignited worldwide debates about animal captivity, the ethics of marine parks, and how far is too far when mixing entertainment with wild instincts. The tragedy left a permanent scar on the industry, and made it painfully clear that even trained professionals aren't immune when nature decides to take control. These weren't stunts gone wrong. These were stark reminders that no matter how skilled, beloved, or prepared a performer might be, nature doesn't take direction, and when it lashes out, the consequences are almost always irreversible. Not every on-stage death is quiet. Some erupt into chaos so fast, the crowd barely has time to process what's happening. That's exactly what happened on October 30, 2015, during a metal concert in Bucharest, Romania. The band Goodbye to Gravity was performing their album release show inside the Collective nightclub when a pyrotechnics display went horribly wrong. Sparks from the stage ignited soundproofing foam on the ceiling, and within seconds, flames tore through the venue. Panic spread. The fire claimed 64 lives, including 4 of the band's 5 members, and injured hundreds more. It was one of the deadliest nightclub disasters in history, and it triggered nationwide protests over safety violations and government corruption. What was supposed to be a night of celebration turned into a national tragedy in under 5 minutes. Another devastating loss came in March 2023, when Costa Titch, a rising South African rapper and dancer, collapsed on stage. Not once, but twice, during his performance at the Ultra Music Festival in Johannesburg. The first fall seemed like a stumble. He got up and kept going. But seconds later, he collapsed again, and this time, he didn't get back up. Emergency medics rushed the stage, but it was too late. The exact cause of death remains unclear, though speculation ranges from seizures to other underlying medical conditions. He was just 27. Fans watched in disbelief as a rising star's life ended in real time, in the middle of what should have been a career-defining performance. Then there was Zoltán Latinovits, a Hungarian singer and performer, who collapsed during a live TV show. Though the official cause was listed as a heart attack, conspiracy theories quickly began swirling across Europe. Some believed the incident was no accident, that it may have been a politically motivated setup or something far darker. No definitive proof ever surfaced, but the rumors never stopped. To this day, his death remains a haunting mystery, amplified by the fact that it happened with cameras rolling. These tragedies weren't about a single performer quietly slipping away. These were mass-scale events, unpredictable, chaotic, and unforgettable. They left behind not only grief, but outrage, suspicion, and a chilling reminder that in live entertainment, one wrong moment can change everything. Nick Menza, former drummer for the legendary metal band Megadeth, met a similarly chilling end. On May 21, 2016, Menza was performing with his new band OHM in Los Angeles when he suddenly collapsed behind his drum kit. The crowd had no idea what was happening. Just moments before, the music had been pounding through the venue. Medics arrived quickly, but Menza was pronounced dead at the scene. He was only 51, and his passing left a void in the world of heavy metal. Just 1 year later, Cuban musician Juan Carlos collapsed mid-performance during a concert in the Bronx. Known for blending Latin jazz and soul with powerful storytelling, Formel was deeply respected by fans across generations. At just 59 years old, he suffered a fatal heart attack while doing what he had always done, sharing music from the heart. His death stunned the audience and silenced a voice that still had so much left to say. And finally, one of the most symbolic farewells came from Papa Wemba, the Congolese music legend who helped shape African pop as we know it. During his performance at the Femua Music Festival in Ivory Coast in 2016, Wemba collapsed mid-song. At first, his band kept playing, unaware of what had just happened. But the silence that followed would echo across continents. He had brought African rhythms to global stages, and then, in a surreal twist, gave his final breath to one. These final cases don't need headlines to hit hard. Each story is a reminder that for performers, the stage is sacred. And for some, it's the very place where life writes its last line, right in front of the people who loved them most. It's easy to think of performers as larger than life, untouchable, immortal, fueled by the energy of the crowd. But these stories remind us that even the brightest stars burn out, sometimes right in front of our eyes. Each of these artists, athletes, and entertainers walked onto a stage expecting to deliver a performance, not knowing it would be their last. Some passed quietly. Others vanished in chaos, but all of them left something behind, one final moment, frozen in time, that fans will never forget. And maybe that's what makes it so haunting. Not just that they died doing what they loved, but that we were watching when it happened. So next time the lights go up and the curtain rises, remember, every performance carries risk, Every encore could be the last, and sometimes, the most unforgettable moments are the ones no one ever wanted to see. So now that you've heard their stories, we want to hear yours. Which moment hit you the hardest? Let us know in the comments, and if you want more real, chilling stories like this, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We've got more coming, and trust us, you won't believe what's next.